Danny Boyle and Alex Garland's long-awaited sequel 28 years later will reportedly spawn a trilogy of new movies set nearly 3 decades after the franchise's original movie, and the latest update about the return of Cillian Murphy's Jim makes one dark theory seem even more believable. But before we get into it, if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button, drop a like and comment on the video, and if you're able, please sign up for channel memberships for exclusive content, which really helps us out. Anyway, back to the video. So, the theatrical release of the groundbreaking 2002 horror classic ended on an optimistic note, while 2 of its alternate endings were much more grim. The long-gestating sequel 28 years later is set to fall in line with the original theatrical release though, in which Jim survives the movie's events. It was originally believed that Cillian Murphy would not be returning for the sequel before a brief image in the movie's first trailer appeared to show him as an emaciated zombie. However, after clarification that the figure in the trailer was not Jim, fans have still wondered if the franchise's first protagonist would even play a small role in the new trilogy. As it stands, he is still not reported to be in the 28 years later cast, but a recent update from director Danny Boyle himself sparked new hope that Jim's story is not over yet. At Sony's 2025 CinemaCon presentation, a new trailer for 28 years later was revealed, and Danny Boyle teased on stage that Cillian Murphy may return during the planned trilogy of movies. As Boyle mentioned to the audience, like all good things in life, you may have to wait a little while for him to make an appearance. That makes it seem as though Cillian Murphy won't return in 28 years later, but he could be involved in the second part of the trilogy, 28 years later The Bone Temple, or the unnamed third chapter. If the character of Jim is to return to the narrative, it would be a massive moment for the franchise. While Murphy was an up-and-comer when 28 Days Later was released, he's a bona fide megastar now. It seems unlikely that he'll return for just a minor role or cameo. If he has a significant role, it would need to be built up properly. That makes it seem extremely likely that even if Jim doesn't return for 28 years later, his role will be teased in some way during the movie. A pair of images from the 28 years later trailer showed the name Jimmy in auspicious locations, the side of a building and carved into the body of an infected man hanging from his ankles, which naturally has sparked the notion that it's reference to Jim. If those locations are any indication, a particularly dark theory about Jim's fate could prove true. Despite surviving the harrowing events at the military estate where he sought the answer to infection, Jim could have become twisted over time by desperation, grief, starvation, and any number of woes. It points to a convincing theory about what really happened to him. He became a maniacal cult leader. The 28 years later trailer is rife with cult-like imagery. The carefully constructed skull forest, graffiti across multiple buildings, and scenes with children and masked characters all conjure images of a twisted religion. The trailer also failed to reveal, or at least clarify, the identity of a villain beyond the still-running infected, which means that they could be setting up to reveal Jim as the primary antagonist of Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Ralph Fiennes' characters. The fan theories about Jim have run wild ever since 28 years later was announced, helped along by the Irish actor's Oscar-winning performance in the box office smash hit Oppenheimer. With both Danny Boyle and Alex Garland returning for a trilogy, it seems like there's no way that Cillian Murphy wouldn't make an appearance as well. On top of that, the tease of a significant character called Jimmy feels far too much like a coincidence for it not to be a reference to the first movie's hero. It seems inevitable that the return of Jim is no longer a question of if, but of when. With Danny Boyle's CinemaCon tease now in play, it seems likely that 28 years later will provide the build-up to Jim's return in some fashion, whether as a hero or as a villain. However, given what audiences have already seen in the 28 years later trailer, a dark fate for his character seems like a foregone conclusion.